Cliff Kingsbury is the ultimate clout chase hire. Like, seriously, this hire is nothing more than the Cardinals clout chasing Sean McVay. And what we should learn from this isn't that the Arizona Cardinals made a bad decision. No, it's that the NFL in a whole has a serious clout chasing problem. Now, those of you who are unfamiliar with the term clout chasing is when somebody who does not have a lot of social prestige chooses to closely associate themselves with those that do in order to gain more social prestige. See, this show can be really good and sophisticated. But seriously, look around the league. It's full of dudes chasing clout. Todd Monken is on the Browns staff not because they offered him the biggest role. No, it's because they offered him the most clout. Dudes like Zach Taylor, Matt LaFleur, and Cliff Kingsbury were not hired based off their resume and skill set. They were hired because they had all that Sean McVay clout. And you know what? From now on, I'm not calling it a coaching tree. It's a clout tree. And hiring off of a clout tree has like a 10% chance of success. Like, look at the longest tenured coaches in the NFL. Mike Tomlin, he didn't have any clout. Sean Payton, no clout. John Harbaugh barely had any clout, and if his last name were different, he would have like a negative clout because he's a special teams coach. The only person you can argue might have been a clout hire is Bill Belichick, which is fair because he definitely was a clout hire. Bill Parcells was definitely a factor into why he got hired. But then Bill Belichick redeemed himself by drafting a QB with zero clout, and the rest is history, and he became the GOAT. I say all this because I want to stress how bad the stock head coach search philosophy is right now in the NFL, because it's essentially based entirely in clout. Who do you know? How long have you known them? How good was that dude when you were there? Do you see the failings in this philosophy and how this philosophy ends up with dudes like Cliff Kingsbury and Hugh Jackson getting jobs and prestige they probably should have never received? We're more enamored with who a dude has worked with than who that dude actually is. We're consistently hiring and interviewing the clout, not the coach. And Cliff Kingsbury is not the sole problem, but the latest and the largest symptom of a idiotic philosophy that is implemented in all but a handful of clubs. So this week, we're going to look at how bad the Cliff Kingsbury hire is and see if the NFL truly does have a clout chasing problem. Now, to start, I understand that Cliff Kingsbury was just hired and that he hasn't even coached in a real NFL game yet. So it might seem harsh to many to deem him a bad hire already. But here's what I will say to that. Even if it does work out, even by the small chance this thing does work out, it's still a bad hire. It's like when LaMelo Ball takes one of those half-court shots with 20 seconds left on the shot clock. Even if it goes in, that was a terrible choice. That was a terrible shot. And hiring Cliff Kingsbury because he looks cool and knows Sean McVay is a pretty bad choice. Hiring Cliff Kingsbury is a fundamentally bad hire. There's nothing that's going to change that. So with that in mind, what are my issues with the Cliff Kingsbury hire? Why do I vehemently oppose this so much? Well, first, let's talk about the discussion around Cliff Kingsbury and talk about the adjectives that are given to him that just aren't earned. And one of these things that I hear all the time on networks that I just don't understand is the tag of offensive genius he has suddenly earned. Whenever Cliff Kingsbury is discussed, particularly nationally, people talk about this revolutionary offense that he's bringing to the NFL. And I always get a laugh out of this because, one, it makes it out like Cliff Kingsbury invented the air raid, which is not true. 2, I thought Sean McVay was the dude we thought revolutionized the whole NFL with his air raid. So exactly how is his less successful friend revolutionizing the NFL? This is not the same thing as when Chip Kelly came to the NFL. See, Chip Kelly had a few things that Cliff Kingsbury doesn't. 1, he actually had a revolutionary offense. He brought something new to the league with his high-tempo spread offense. It failed, but it was new. Like, Baltimore might be out here running the triple option in NFL football games. That's more revolutionary than Cliff Kingsbury's relatively vanilla version of Mike Leach's air raid. That wasn't successful in college. In the Big 12 in the last 10 years, well, since 2013, since Cliff Kingsbury was there, he's had like the 3rd best offense at best. I mean, he was behind Art Briles. He is currently behind Lincoln Riley. As far as innovation is even concerned, let's not even talk about total production. The few things that do separate Cliff Kingsbury's offense from the rest is just the amount of times he passes the ball. In his time in Lubbock, he has consistently ranked in the top 5 in passing attempts. The problem with that is he's also consistently ranked outside the top 10 in completion percentage. Some may chalk it up to a personnel problem, but I would say in his 5 years at Texas Tech, he had 3 NFL quarterbacks, 2 of which got drafted in the top 10, 2 of which are franchise-changing quarterbacks, 2 of which who have been in the top 10 in completion percentage since they left Kingsbury. That is where you have to discard and disqualify his clout and really look at his offense and ask yourself this question. Is what he does on offense conducive to winning? Spoiler alert, I don't think it is. Now, people will try to find excuses for Cliff Kingsbury's record at Texas Tech. And the one thing I think is actually revealing of how bad of a head coach he is when people tell me how he should be excused because his defenses were bad. Now, 1, he recruited the entire team and he was responsible for that defense. So, yeah, it's kind of his fault. But somebody explain to me the logic of throwing the ball as much as he has and having a terrible defense to back it up. Honestly, does that make sense? Like, normally, if your defense stinks and you know your defense stinks because you recruited your personnel on defense that stinks and you coach your personnel on defense every day that stinks, don't you think you would want to limit the time that defense was on the field? You know, control the clock, limit possessions by running the ball more? But year after year, Texas Tech refused to run the ball. Texas Tech had a bad defense year after year. And Cliff Kingsbury kept putting that bad defense in a terrible spot year after year by passing over 55 times a game year after year. And you know what else they did? They lost a ton of games. So even in the way that his offense is kind of different, is that really conducive to winning? Is this a dude who can win football games, period? Let alone in the NFL. It certainly wasn't at Texas Tech, so why would it be in the NFL? And this is a textbook example of people not learning from the past. Because what Arizona should know is that exactly what Cliff Kingsbury is going to do is what doomed Chip Kelly in the first place. Chip Kelly's tempo offense and how often it put the defense on the field was how it became counterproductive to any of the points that they were able to put up. And if Cliff Kingsbury tries to throw 55 times a game in Arizona, then he's going to run into the same problem in the NFL. Cliff Kingsbury is not an offensive genius. He doesn't have a revolutionary offense. He just runs an air raid that is pretty vanilla and has been seen before. And you know what? That actually brings me to my next issue. All air raids are not the same. People tend to use the term air raid as this ubiquitous term that means a wild offense with all these RPOs and spreads and hurry up, when in reality, The concepts that are run by Sean McVay, Andy Reid, Lincoln Riley, and Cliff Kingsbury are all very different from each other. Cliff Kingsbury is probably the most different from those that have worked and more similar to actually somebody who got ran out of the NFL, Chip Kelly. Because what Andy Reid and Sean McVay ran parts of last year is something that is called the Bear Raid. It is a variation on the air raid that is run at Cal. While Kingsbury runs more of a traditional Mike Leach air raid. There are a lot of differences between the two, but to boil it down, bear raids have more RPOs and are more vertical based, so they attack downfield. And the Mike Leach air raid is more about tempo and spreading the ball and using wide receiver screens as an extension of the run game. So, in a very squeezed down, condensed way, think of Mike Leach's air raid as a horizontal offense and the bear raid as a vertical offense. And the problem with Cliff Kingsbury and him choosing Kyler Murray as his quarterback is that while everybody hears air raid and knows that Kyler Murray was successful in an air raid, I don't think they know which air raid he was successful in, because it's definitely not Cliff Kingsbury's air raid. And I would actually argue that Cliff Kingsbury's offense is a terrible fit for Kyler Murray. Now, I've mentioned this before, but you want to know why guys like Patrick Mahomes, Baker Mayfield, and even Kyler Murray shined in one air raid, but not the other? When Kyler Murray was actually running something similar to what Kingsbury did at Texas A&M. Now, Kingsbury wasn't there to give him credit, but they still ran the similar offense that he did. Kyler Murray was kind of dreadful at Texas A&M. But when he ran Lincoln Riley's more downfield attack version of the air raid, all of a sudden, he was more successful. And that is because Murray's body and his game is more suited for the vertical game that Lincoln Riley's bear raid offers. And this actually does have something to do with his height. Now, I don't know why, but hear me out. Because for whatever reason, short quarterbacks don't excel when they're asked to make plays closer to the line of scrimmage. But for whatever reason, again, I don't know why, when you stretch the game vertically, shorter QBs tend to be more successful. Let's use 6'1" quarterback Tyrod Taylor as an example, because in Buffalo, he was a Pro Bowler. But in Cleveland, he was god-awful. Now note, nothing has changed with Tyrod Taylor. He didn't have an injury, nothing. The only thing that changed is the basic concept of the passing game that he was asked to execute. In Cleveland, his passing chart looked like this. Notice the amount of passes within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. Now, look at his chart in Buffalo, where he was successful. See? Now, remember how Baker Mayfield started to play much better after Hugh Jackson left? Well, again, let's look at the chart. This is the chart of a typical Hugh Jackson game when he was in control of the offense in 2017. This is Deshaun Kaiser, okay? So just pay attention to the dots. Now here is a look at the Todd Haley offense with Big Ben in 2017 when he was still with Pittsburgh, okay? Notice the similarities. Now this is a chart of Baker in the Hugh Jackson / Todd Haley offense when he was struggling. Now, coincidentally, after both of these guys are fired and Freddie Kitchens is put in charge of the offense, you will notice a little bit of a philosophy change just by looking at this chart. Still don't believe me that this is somehow true? Here is the chart of the most successful short quarterback in NFL history, Drew Brees. Notice certain similarities. Don't ask me why. I am not a genius. But for whatever reason, shorter quarterbacks play better when asked to make plays away from the line of scrimmage. Kyler Murray is the shortest quarterback. His game is well suited for the vertical game that he excelled with at Oklahoma. Now, you know whose offense throws a ton of balls within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage? Cliff Kingsbury. Kyler Murray this season will more than likely look like the dude who failed at Texas A&M if he brings back his screen-heavy air raid offense to the NFL. If he brings that same offense he had at Texas Tech to the NFL, Kyler Murray will not be too successful. But you know what? This is what happens when you hire people off of clout and buzzwords. It's like shopping for clothes on AliExpress. Sure, it may look cool, but it's definitely not going to fit. And this is why Cliff Kingsbury is a bad hire and a worse fit for Kyler Murray. All right, guys, that's it for this episode of Post Weekend. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and let me know in the comment section, do you agree with me? Do you see the same correlation between shorter quarterbacks in a vertical offense, or do you think I'm just plain crazy and I'm picking charts and you think I'm just super biased and I'm an idiot and I should shut up and you're probably a Cardinals fan who does not like the truth? But anyways, that is it for this week's episode. Thank you guys for watching. If you really like what I did here, if you really like what I do here, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and ding that notification bell so you can be notified when I upload. And it's the NFL season, so you better subscribe and get notified so you can get all this good NFL content during the season. What's wrong with you? Why wouldn't you do that? And if you have a buck or two to spare, please consider becoming a patron and having your name added to the bottom of this ticker so you can show off your friends and show off how much clout you have. It's a clout bar now. I'm a complete hypocrite anti. But thank you guys for watching. Have a great day and have a good night.